The story begins with a genie named Malchus, who explains that he and all other genies were created from fire by God, and not only that, they were gifted with enormous powers, which naturally filled them with so much arrogance that even God became displeased. To teach them a lesson, God sent angels to confront them, and for 300 years a fierce battle raged between the angels and the genies. The angels were far more powerful, and after fighting for so long, when the genies finally realized they were close to losing, countless genies hid inside lamps as a last attempt at survival. But even then, the defeated genies ultimately lost the war. After this, God created humans and commanded the remaining genies to bow before them. Every genie obeyed, except Malchus, who refused to bow, and for this defiance, he was sent straight to hell. Once there, Malchus boldly challenged God, insisting that humans were not superior to genies, and claiming that their greed and lust would eventually prove his point, and if he managed to prove that he was right, God would have to grant him the freedom to move between heaven and hell. God accepted the challenge, and from this very moment began that familiar tale of 3 wishes, which we have heard in genie stories for generations. Humans rub a lamp, the genie emerges, asks for 3 wishes, and fulfills them. Most people driven by greed and selfish desires demand wishes that only expose their flaws, and in such moments it is the Malchus who always gains the upper hand. One day, however, a little girl asked for all 3 wishes for someone else, and as punishment for losing that challenge, Malchus was locked inside a lamp for 1,000 years. And if within those 1,000 years someone happened to find and rub the lamp, the genie would be forced to grant their wish and restart his imprisonment. Malchus didn't care about the imprisonment. He only wanted one thing, just once, to escape and find that same girl, manipulate her into making greedy wishes, and prove that humans were inherently selfish. After many years, a woman named Percy was sitting inside a restaurant with the mother who had never actually raised her. When Percy was a child, her mother had left her with her grandmother and used to send large amounts of money for her upbringing, but the grandmother never used a single penny and instead buried all the money underground like some extremely committed squirrel. When Percy's mother asked why she was even working when she had so much money and how she had ended up here, Percy narrated her entire life story. And while listening, her mother noticed a scar on her hand and asked how she got it. Percy explained that since childhood, she had struggled with controlling her emotions. Her stubbornness and anger were so intense that her teachers refused to teach her any further, and she admitted quite casually that she found enjoyment in tormenting people, which is why biology class was her favorite, because she got to dissect frogs, and she used to kill 2 or 3 frogs every day as if that were a normal childhood hobby. Then one day, while she was about to cut open another frog, her grandmother struck her hand with a sharp object, leaving a scar. Percy grew so furious that she tried choking her grandmother, who, in return, grabbed her by the throat and taught her that the pain she felt in that moment was the same pain the frog must have felt, and from that day onward, she learned that no matter how angry she became, she had to control herself, live with love, and avoid harming anyone. After telling this story, Percy told her mother that even though she was abandoned, her grandmother had taught her everything, and she had never harmed anyone since then, and this alone proved that she no longer needed her mother, so it would be better if her mother stayed out of her life. After that, Percy left and traveled to Dubai to visit the desert. Everyone there was extremely excited because a tornado had formed, and they believed a genie was dancing inside it, but Percy felt no excitement at all. She simply walked away from the crowd, and suddenly her foot bumped into a lamp. She picked it up, shook it, and the genie burst out right in front of her. She should have screamed or panicked, but instead she stood there so calmly that the genie probably felt offended on behalf of horror movie directors everywhere. This genie was Malchus, and upon seeing Percy, he realized that she was the same girl responsible for trapping him in the lamp in his previous encounter, and 963 years had already passed since that event. Malchus felt thrilled that Percy was the one who had freed him, and believed that now he would finally take revenge, prove himself right, and ascend to heaven. Percy was utterly uninterested in his dramatic declarations. She simply tossed the lamp aside and walked away. But when she reached her hotel room, her welcome committee turned out to be a large pile of hair, every strand belonging to Malchus. She told him to leave, but instead of disappearing, he transformed into a theatrically emotional blob and began narrating how he spent 9 centuries trapped inside the lamp, saying that the first 600 years had been easy, but during that time, he created a creature from his hair named Sehet and sent it across different timelines to find her. He told her about his deal with God, that he had to prove she was a bad human, and once he succeeded, he would be completely free and could go anywhere he wished. While talking, we see Percy shopping and occasionally responding to him, but since no one else could see Malchus, everyone around her assumed she had officially lost her mind. Eventually, she grew irritated by his constant chatter and threw the lamp into the sea. Yet no matter how many times she tried getting rid of it, Malchus kept appearing in front of her. Finally, she asked him what he wanted, and he said he only needed her to make 3 wishes so he could be free. And now, Percy begins questioning him further. She asked Malchus whether he could fly, and the moment she said this, Malchus pulled her close and lifted her into the air, taking her high above the city and placing her directly on top of a tall tower. The very second they landed, Percy pushed Malchus with full force, and this reckless act made Malchus so furious that he came straight back and grabbed her by the throat. Even while choking, Percy kept laughing, telling him that she wasn't afraid of dying at all, and that she actually wished someone would just kill her, which startled him so much that he threw her off the tower, and even while falling toward the ground, she was still laughing as if gravity itself was her favorite roller coaster. Realizing that this girl was not going to become sensible in any ordinary manner, Malchus caught her just before she hit the ground and warned her that if she repeated such behavior again, he would leave her and kill every human in the world. The next day, Percy returned to her house, and everyone was extremely shocked to see her because this time she had a boy with her, and that boy was Malchus. She herself was shocked that Malchus was visible to them, and angered by this, she went straight into her garage. She wanted to hit Malchus, but at that exact moment her grandmother came in, asking who the boy was and with whom she had returned. Percy either wanted to tell her grandmother the truth about Malchus or hide it, but she quickly noticed that Malchus had become invisible again and was playing a game with her by showing himself to some people while disappearing in front of others. Percy's anger grew even more, and she put her watch on and listened to the ticking sound of her watch, because her grandmother had taught her this method when she was a child to control her anger. When she was young, her grandmother had controlled her anger very well, had taken great care of her, and had even taught her everything herself, including her studies. Returning to the present, Malchus made himself visible to her grandmother again, and the grandmother immediately began asking him questions about his parents and his education. Malchus had no answer to any of these questions, so he disappeared again. Even now, Malchus could not understand Percy because any ordinary human would have asked for all 3 wishes by this time, but she had not even responded properly to a single one. He then asked Saeed, his old friend, to investigate Percy, and they discovered that she was a psychopath. When Malchus asked what a psychopath was, Saeed showed him pictures, and he became even more terrified of her than before. Meanwhile, Percy also told her friend about Malchus, but she hid the truth that he was a genie. After hearing so much about him, her friend advised her to stay far away from him, but Malchus had no intention of leaving her. He appeared again in her workshop and, in order to test her, he set the workshop on fire. At that moment, Percy became extremely angry, came out of her room, and began hitting Malchus, and Malchus understood clearly that this girl was far beyond his capacity to handle. The people outside saw the flames inside the garage and called the firefighters, but before the firefighters arrived, all the fire had already vanished because the fire had been created by Malchus and he had extinguished it himself. After this, Percy left with her friend for dinner, and from their conversation, we learned that Percy's routine was extremely fixed, and she always had dinner at the same place every Wednesday and never broke her routine. While they were sitting in the restaurant, Malchus emerged from the water dispenser and told her that he was sorry, that he had set her workshop on fire, and that he had now repaired her entire workshop. Percy did not reply because she noticed that at this moment, Malchus was visible only to her. When she stepped outside, she gave him a hair clip and told him that whenever he was visible only to her, he had to wear this clip on his head, otherwise people would again think she was completely insane, just like last time. Malchus became excited and asked if he should consider this her first wish, but Percy clearly refused and said that her first wish was this. She would give him the names of 5 people, and he would have to prove that at least 3 of them were greedy. Since he claimed that humans were greedy and selfish, and her grandmother insisted that humans were very kind and pure-hearted, this would determine who was right. She then told him the names of the 5 people who had been closest to her during her childhood. Malchus was deeply troubled by this wish, wondering what would happen if he failed to prove that humans were greedy, because then he would lose in front of God as well. But the girl had not asked him for any selfish wishes, and after seeing more of Percy's past, he learned that she had always been extremely soft-hearted. After that, he returned to the present and told her that the people she wanted him to judge would not be able to see him unless they had a wish in their hearts. Then he took Percy to a very tall building, and when she asked why they were there, Malchus told her that they had come to obtain a feather that always wrote the truth. While they were talking, the angel Israel arrived, and Malchus told Percy that he was going to drop her from the building, and that when Israel came to save her, she should break off one of his feathers. The moment Malchus pushed her, Israel flew down to save her, caught her in mid-air with his wings, brought her safely to the ground, and while talking to him, Percy managed to break one of his feathers and leave. Then Malchus appeared in front of Israel, and Israel asked how he had survived, warning him that one day he would destroy him completely. Instead of answering, Malchus demolished Israel's entire building, and this made Israel furious. Meanwhile, Percy began testing the feather she had taken from Israel. This feather had the power to turn anything written with it into truth, so Percy used it to write about the people she wanted to test, that each of them desired a wish. Her experiment succeeded. She wrote about the first girl, Yang, that Yang had no wish in her heart. In the supermarket, Yang's manager scolded her, and when Yang went into the storeroom to bring the items as instructed, even in that moment, a wish arose in her heart that she wished she were the manager herself, and as she picked up the items, something struck her hand exactly at that moment, proving the feather's power perfectly. Yang picked up the item, and the moment she moved it, the genie, Malchus, appeared in front of her and asked what she wanted. Yang immediately said she wanted to become the manager of the store, and with a snap of his fingers, Malchus granted her wish, making her the manager instantly, leaving all the employees utterly shocked to see her in that position. Percy came to the mall to check on her and noticed that after becoming manager, the sweet, soft-hearted girl had now turned into an extremely arrogant one. At that moment, Malchus appeared beside Percy and reminded her that he had already told her humans were proud and greedy, to which Percy responded that there were still others left to test, and she hoped not everyone would turn out the same way. Her mind wandered to her childhood friend Minchie, who she believed could never be a bad person because she had always been extremely gentle. In fact, the kids at school used to bully her constantly. Percy hated this, and one day she decided to defend Minchie by following the girls who bullied her into the washroom, pouring kerosene on the floor, lighting a lighter, and threatening them that if they ever tried to bother Minchie again, she would burn them alive. From that day onward, all 3 girls pretended to be Minchie's friends so that they could stay safe around Percy and keep an eye on her. Meanwhile, we see Israel seething with rage at Malchus's actions, when his assistant Irma asks what will happen next. Israel tells her that Percy has placed an extremely difficult condition on the Malchus, and there is a strong possibility he will fail and lose. At the same time, Malchus continues digging up information about Percy and discovers that she is extraordinarily disciplined. On one day she goes scuba diving, on another day hiking, on another day swimming. She manages all these activities alongside her workshop, and she also works in another workshop where she builds coffins for herself and her grandmother. Soon after, Malchus approached her and asked what she feared the most, and she told him that her greatest fear was that her grandmother would leave her forever, that she would die, and Percy would have no idea what her life would become afterward. She felt that the moment her grandmother died, she would die too, which was why she was making the second coffin. This terrified Malchus, because he thought that if she died, whose wishes would he fulfill? He would be imprisoned in hell again. Panicking, he decided the solution was to increase the grandmother's lifespan so she would never fall ill, and he began secretly doing all her chores so she wouldn't get tired. Later, inside the storeroom, Malchus was sitting with Saeed, saying that Yang was a very good person who had never asked for a wish for herself in her entire life and always cared about others. He had no idea that Percy was overhearing this. She asked him to come along, went shopping with him, and then took him to dinner, where he once again asked her about her remaining wishes. Percy said nothing. She simply stared outside the window, and watching her, Malchus understood what she wanted. He asked if this was her second wish, and Percy nodded, and despite everything, Malchus agreed to take her there, only requesting that she not push him again like before. To make the moment special for her, he switched off all the city lights and showed her a sky full of beautiful stars, in which Percy became completely lost, remembering her friend's advice that whenever a boy started talking about stars, she should kiss him because it meant he liked her. Thinking this, she kissed Malchus, but even after kissing him, she felt absolutely nothing inside. But when the genie kissed her back, however, she experienced for the first time a feeling other than anger. After this, the two went to eat, and when Percy returned home, she hacked the door's security system and saved the videos of her kissing the genie so she could blackmail him later, because she had felt an emotion other than anger for the first time in her life and enjoyed it so much that she wanted to keep kissing the genie again and again, and poor Malchus was running around trying to hide from her, even stuffing himself inside one of the coffins she had built. When she found him even there, Malchus told her he could not kiss her again and again because it went against the law of nature, and that for him to kiss her, rain and alcohol were necessary. Hearing this, Percy finally backed off and left, but now Malchus was the one panicking because Percy was obsessively chasing him. When Saeed heard all this, he burst out laughing and mocked Malchus's teeth, which he had not cleaned in 1,000 years. This disgusted Malchus so much that he went to Minchi, the dentist and Percy's friend, to have his teeth cleaned. He got them cleaned, but afterward, he had no money to pay, and Minchi refused to let him leave the clinic. When Malchus mentioned Percy's name, she dragged him straight to Percy and warned her never to talk to this boy again because he didn't have a single penny. Percy agreed, and Minchi left. After that, we see Malchus with the grandmother in the market, constantly protecting her. In the market, someone stole the hair clip Percy had given him, and he needed to find it immediately. When he chased the thief, another gang arrived to fight the thief. Malchus didn't hesitate. He grabbed his hair clip back and turned all their weapons into flowers, shocking everyone. Meanwhile, Israel arrived to meet Percy and revealed his truth to her that he was an angel, and his duty was to cut off Malchus's head. The day Malchus bowed his head in front of any human, Israel would kill him. He came only to tell her that she must use her remaining 2 wishes for good so that Malchus would lose in front of humans. Hearing this, Percy angrily told him to get out. On the other hand, Minchi had taken Malchus out for dinner because she actually wanted to threaten him to stay away from her friend, and threatened that whoever tried to harm her friend would face a miserable fate. And hearing her slurred, fiery declarations, Malchus couldn't help laughing. Standing outside, Percy found the entire scene extremely strange. Her mind jumped to conclusions, and when she saw her friend collapse in her drunken state, she rushed to pick her up and carry her home. Meanwhile, Malchus remained seated in the restaurant, where the manager caught him because he could not pay the bill, and since he had no money at all, she called the police and had him arrested, and once again it was Percy who came to release him from jail. The moment they stepped out, she questioned him about why he didn't call Israel for help, since Israel was supposedly his brother and would have come to rescue him. Malchus then revealed the entire truth, and he confessed his past, and explained how God had sent the angels to break the pride of the genies. And he clarified that Israel was not his brother, but his enemy. He said he had no idea where his real brother was, whether he lived in some dreamlike world, or whether he was creating rainfall somewhere, or bringing spring breezes somewhere else to bloom flowers. Hearing this, Percy immediately understood his implication and urged him to find his brother because his brother controlled the rain, and if it rained, she would be able to kiss Malchus. The very thought of this made Malchus run away in panic. Meanwhile, returned to Yang at the mall, where she saw that her employees refused to listen to her because she had only just become their boss. She remembered her first wish and thought she should make another wish that would let her become a manager in the past, so everyone would obey her completely. She summoned Malchus and asked for this wish, and he took her 20 years back into the past, making her the manager there. In the past, he also saw Percy's younger self, and when Malchus sat down to talk to her, the angry child threw a stone at him because her grandmother had forbidden her from talking to anyone. In the present, we had seen Percy relive this exact vision the moment she threw a stone at Malchus as a child. This action in the past created a new memory inside Percy's mind. Soon after, it began to rain, and Percy immediately grabbed bottles of alcohol and ran out to find Malchus, because now the rules were finally complete. She could kiss him in the rain after drinking. Malchus, knowing this, hid from her and only appeared once the rain had stopped. At the same time, we saw Israel return to Earth in the form of a handsome human, and people were staring at him in surprise, although their admiration quickly turned into confusion because he began behaving oddly, unable to open simple doors or understand even basic human objects. Meanwhile, Percy was cleaning her house and came across a book in which she had written things using Israel's feather. She realized anyone could read it. She summoned Malchus and asked where she should hide the book so no one could ever see it. Malchus suggested hiding it inside the lamp. Percy then asked who could enter the lamp. Malchus answered that humans could not enter, but he could, his assistant Said could, Israel could, and Israel's assistant Irma could as well. Percy asked how she herself would go inside, and Malchus, with a single snap, transported her into the lamp. The two of them began hiding the book there. But in the real world, the lamp slipped from its place, rolled, and landed in her grandmother's hands, who immediately tossed it aside, causing the interior of the lamp to shake violently, and Malchus fell directly onto Percy, creating an unexpectedly romantic moment. At that same moment, they realized it had started raining outside again, and even Malchus wanted to kiss her now, so he rushed out to fetch alcohol. But before they could get it, they heard her grandmother crying. They found out that a neighbor had visited, and his conversation had deeply upset the grandmother. Since they were the same age, she became terrified that she too would die soon, and her greatest worry was what would happen to Percy after her death, how she would manage anything alone. Seeing this, Percy made a major decision and used her second wish. She asked Malchus to turn her grandmother into a young woman and extend her lifespan. But they didn't want anyone to know about this, so they needed to take her grandmother away before the transformation. Malchus told her grandmother to pack for a long trip, and the excited grandmother immediately told all her friends. That night, all the magic was completed, and in the morning when her grandmother woke up, Percy was stunned to see her. She looked unbelievably beautiful in her youth. When Percy praised her beauty, her grandmother assumed Percy was teasing her, insisting this was not the time for jokes. She couldn't understand a thing until, minutes later, she looked in the mirror and fainted repeatedly, unable to recognize herself, thinking it was all a dream. After huge effort, Percy finally convinced her that she had truly become young again. Still, the grandmother kept asking how it was possible. Percy reminded her of the book in which she had written so many things with the feather. The moment the grandmother accepted her youth, she immediately began behaving like a young girl again. She got dressed beautifully and went out to the market to enjoy her rejuvenation. When Percy discovered this, she ran out in panic to find her because she feared someone would discover the truth. After much struggle, she dragged her grandmother back home and told her she had set strict rules. First, she must not talk too much to anyone, and if someone asked who she was, she should say she was Percy's friend staying with her for a while. While they discussed these rules, Malchus was begging for food because he was extremely hungry, so Percy scolded him and kicked him out, leaving him to sit on a labor bench. Soon after, a farmer arrived and took the group of men, including Malchus, to work on the fields. Malchus observed the work and declared it ridiculously easy. He completed the entire field work with just a few snaps, and after the work was done, they were all served a feast. Malchus was astonished that they were receiving so much food for such an easy job, and his astonishment doubled when he found out they were also being paid for the work, and not just paid, but paid generously, making him so excited that he looked moments away from dancing like a genie in a shampoo commercial. Now the scene cuts to Percy's neighbor, the man she had wished to learn about. He was driving when his car collided with a deer and left it badly injured. Panicking, he stepped out, not knowing what to do, when he suddenly found the same lamp among his belongings, and when he rubbed it, the genie appeared before him. The man was terrified at first, but Malchus convinced him he was indeed a genie. The man responded by challenging him to prove it by healing the deer, and Malchus used his magic to fix the deer instantly. The man then began panicking because he realized he had just wasted a wish. Meanwhile, Malchus returned home and saw that Percy had installed cameras throughout the entire house so she could keep watch on her grandmother. On one camera, her grandmother was digging in the garden, trying to find the money she had been burying underground since Percy's childhood. Percy came and told her that she would never find that money because she had already retrieved it long ago and invested it in the stock market. On the other side, we saw the second girl Percy had wished to know about. Her boss scolded her, and she began crying, wishing she had as much money as Percy. At that moment, the lamp appeared inside the dishes she was washing. She rubbed it, Malchus emerged, and he asked her for her wish. She wished for all of Percy's money to be transferred to her account. Malchus granted her wish and then went to inform Percy. Percy grew sad because she had never expected that girl to act this way. Then Percy touched the hourglass Malchus had given her to learn how she had died in her past life. After seeing her previous form, she began to recreate that form herself. At this moment, Israel arrived and told her he could show her how she looked and how she died in her past life. Percy, already irritated, picked up a stick and struck him so hard on the mouth that Israel had no choice but to leave immediately. Meanwhile, a dead woman's body was found in the neighborhood, triggering an investigation, and everyone went to the police station to report Percy, accusing her of killing her grandmother because no one had seen her grandmother in days and no one was answering her phone. Before the authorities could capture Percy, Malchus saved her by pretending to be her grandmother and calling all her friends to assure them she was perfectly safe. Everyone left, and Malchus teased Percy, asking why the wise wish she had asked had turned into such a disaster. Furious, Percy told him she should never have asked anything from a devil. Hearing this made Malchus sad as well. Meanwhile, the girl who had taken Percy's money discovered she only received 10 million won, which she considered too little, so she summoned Malchus again and asked for another wish: that Percy's account limit should collapse entirely, and that all remaining money from Percy's account should transfer into hers. Malchus granted this wish, and once all the money arrived in her account, the girl became extremely excited and immediately bought the same branded handbag Percy used. At the same time, Percy was at home decoding the Arabic writing under the lamp and discovered that this lamp was created after Malchus had been imprisoned. Israel then came to Percy and took her into the past to show her how she had died. In the past, we saw Israel and Malchus sitting in a desert where people were kidnapping children from one village and transporting them to another to use them for labor. Along the way, many wolves attacked these children, and the kidnappers would sacrifice one child to save themselves and continue their journey. Among these kidnapped children was Percy. While walking through the desert, her foot struck a lamp buried under the sand, causing her to fall. Because of the impact, Malchus emerged from the lamp. She asked for her first wish, to save the sacrificed child and extend his life. Malchus granted it and then asked for her second wish. Percy asked him to free all the kidnapped children of their village and return them to their homes. Malchus fulfilled this wish and then erased the entire path used by the kidnappers, making it impossible for them to reach the village. As a result, the kidnappers died on the journey. And now, Israel showed Percy how many people had died because of her wish. The little Percy felt even more heartbroken and said she never asked for such consequences. So her third wish was that both she and Malchus should receive punishment for what had happened. Because of this third wish, she died there, and Malchus was imprisoned in the lamp for 1,000 years. The adult Percy was watching this entire scene and observed Malchus carefully. He was not angry about being imprisoned, but hurt about something else. She wanted to understand what exactly had pained him at that moment. After witnessing everything, Percy punched Israel severely, accusing him of sitting and watching the scene while she was dying there in the past. In the present, Percy called Malchus into her office and asked if he had ever had a girlfriend. Malchus arrogantly said yes. Percy then asked if he had kissed her, and hearing this, Malchus disappeared instantly because he feared Percy might kiss him at that moment. When Percy arrived at work, her boss fired her from her job. Meanwhile, the third person Percy wanted to observe was a YouTuber whose phone also contained the lamp. He was drunk and didn't believe any of it at first. The lamp had made a wish written on it, and in his drunken state, he wished for content that would make his channel go viral. The lamp granted his wish and transported him into a forest during a live stream, where while walking, something brushed against his foot, and when he cleared the dirt to see what it was a dead body, and the moment the YouTuber's camera captured it, thousands of people began joining his live stream, turning the case into such a hyped spectacle that even the police became involved. Since the crime scene was in Percy's neighborhood, all the neighbors were discussing the murder except Percy herself, and because everyone had always believed she was a psychopath since childhood, they quickly assumed she must be behind this killing too. Hearing these accusations deeply hurt her grandmother, who had raised Percy with such care, yet no one ever liked her. Seeing her grandmother sad made Percy miserable, and to cheer her up, Malchus took Percy once again to a mountaintop to show her the stars. But right at that moment, the neighbor, Sante, summoned Malchus for another wish and demanded that he take him 20 years into the past. Malchus transported him, but Sante angrily complained that he wanted to arrive at night, not daytime. Just then, they saw young Percy and her grandmother passing by, and Sante began laughing and calling her a psychopath, which enraged Malchus so much that he started beating him up then and there. Later, night fell, and they saw this same man murdering a woman and dyeing her hair. This was the same woman whose dead body had been found in the present. Sante had come to the past to confirm that no one had seen him committing the murder or burying the body, and discovering that he remained unseen made him extremely satisfied. Back in the present, Malchus told Percy everything that Sante had only gone to the past to ensure he wasn't caught. Percy realized he was a serial killer, and that he was behind the recent murder in their neighborhood as well, so she used her third wish on Malchus, telling him to frame Sante for the crime. Since Percy's wish was unselfish, this meant Malchus would lose, and Percy knew this because Israel had warned her earlier. She told Malchus not to worry, saying she would not let him lose either, which made Malchus so happy that he felt another surge of affection for her. Moments later, a new character named Sadi is introduced, who had recently moved into Percy's neighborhood with his family. Somehow he found Malchus at night and tied him with a black thread that no one could untie except Percy, who casually removed it as if it were a loose shoelace. Soon we learned that there was a child living in Sadi's house who had asked Sadi to perform this act. The child wanted to test the power of the thread. It became clear that the child was connected to Malchus and the lamp because he knew the genie's entire story and wanted to become the owner of the lamp himself. That was why he had ordered Sadi to capture Malchus. Meanwhile, Percy began having visions of her third life, in which she saw herself with a child named Khalid. She grew curious about the thread's connection to these visions and tied it to her grandmother, but the grandmother easily removed it. Then she tied it on Malchus and asked her grandmother to untie it, but this time the grandmother couldn't. Percy then removed the thread again effortlessly and understood that she had a deep connection with it. To uncover this connection, Malchus decided to take Percy to Dubai. They were supposed to travel alone, but Percy brought everyone along so they could enjoy the trip. In Dubai, Malchus lit a special type of vase, and a female genie emerged from it, his ex. Malchus asked her whether she had ever come near him in the past in the form of the girl who had been with him, and she denied it. Malchus then openly asked her about the thread Sadie had used to bind him. She explained that the girl clearly had a connection to the thread because if it was tied to Malchus, only that girl could untie it. Though she didn't know about the thread itself, she knew about Sadi, the genie who had once married a human woman and had a half-human, half-genie son named Khalid, who died young because beings of mixed blood rarely survived. The female genie scolded Malchus about something, and from his reaction, she realized his memories of that time had vanished. Malchus also noticed that pieces of his past had started slipping away. When he strained his mind, he remembered fragments of moments he had shared with Percy inside the lamp. Meanwhile, Israel had gone to meet Malchus' brother. Israel warned him that Malchus had escaped the lamp and told him to keep his mouth shut. Clearly, there was something significant they were hiding from Malchus. When Israel returned, his assistant Irma told him she was the one who had revealed the ex-genie's location to Malchus, and Israel grew so furious that he grabbed Irma by the throat and stole her ability to speak. Meanwhile, Yang summoned Malchus again because she had lost her job and didn't want any more wishes. For her final wish, she asked Malchus to erase all her wishes and erase himself from her life. But Malchus explained that such a thing wasn't possible. Once a genie completed 3 wishes, he left the human's life forever, not just their life, but their memory as well. When he explained this to Percy, she protested that it felt unfair and told him she would remember him forever no matter what. Later, while enjoying time with her friends, one of them jokingly tried to push Percy off a cliff and accidentally succeeded. Before she could fall to her death, Malchus appeared and saved her. In rage, he took the friend and threw him off a cliff, killing him. After all this, Malchus finally visited his brother, only to find his once blooming garden completely withered. When Malchus asked why, his brother confessed he had committed a grave sin and was punished for it. He told him about Saadi, the genie who had a human son named Khalid. Because of his mixed blood, Khalid was always ill and close to death. To save him, Saadi begged for help, so Malchus' brother sacrificed the life of another child and extended Khalid's life so much that he would never die. But because he took an innocent life, his entire garden died, leaving only one massive flower which represented Khalid's unnatural immortality. Meanwhile, Israel visited the grandmother and revealed a shocking truth. Though she had become young, her death would still arrive on its original appointed day. He told her to plant a tree outside the house and said that the day the first flower bloomed on it would be her final day. On the other side, Percy withdrew all her money in cash from the bank. At the same time, the now-grown child, who was actually Khalid and wanted to become the owner of the lamp, confronted her and threatened her to make her 3rd wish soon, or he would destroy her. But Percy refused to be intimidated. Instead, in anger, she attacked him, only to see his wounds heal within seconds. Meanwhile, Malchus went to meet Saadi and told him to control his son. Saadi said he would try his best, but it was no longer in his hands. Meanwhile, Percy walked home carrying her bags of cash. A group of thugs blocked her path and tried to snatch her bag. When she refused, they attacked her, and at the exact moment her life was in danger, her protector Malchus appeared and sent all the attackers on a terrifying tour of hell, quite literally the worst travel package imaginable. He even took Percy briefly to hell as well, but she remained unbothered. After rescuing her, Malchus brought everyone back to Earth, and Percy followed him inside the lamp. She took a highlighter and marked all the writings carved inside the lamp, and realized that everything was written by Malchus himself, yet he no longer remembered any of it. The writings were still there, but their meaning remained unclear. So they decided to summon Israel, Said, and Irma. Israel and Said stayed silent, but Irma, who could not lie, cut off her own tongue rather than speak, revealing that something enormous was being hidden. Israel abruptly walked out, and at that exact moment, Sante summoned Malchus for his 3rd and final wish that he wanted to go back into the past again to kill the same woman he had murdered earlier, but in a different way, so he could erase all evidence of his crime. After dealing with Sante's 3rd wish, Malchus returned and told Percy everything, and Percy told him that she would go with him into the past herself. When the day came to stop the murder of that girl, Percy confronted Sante face to face and beat him so brutally before he could attack the victim that the terrified girl he planned to kill escaped his grip and ran away. In the end, Percy and Malchus together handed Sante over to the police, saving the girl's life. When Malchus returned to his lamp, he realized he had spent 20 years with Percy in her previous life. Remembering this made him emotional, and he suddenly understood that every time he had written the word Habibi on the walls of the lamp, he had written it for Percy. Overwhelmed by this truth, he rushed to her, kissed her, and told her he would try his best to regain every memory he had ever forgotten from the time they were together. Meanwhile, the YouTuber was telling his wife about the genie and his wishes, and his wife suggested he should use a wish to help her father, who had cancer. Tom refused, and the argument escalated into a full fight. Percy's grandmother was also secretly preparing everything for Percy's future, making sure her granddaughter would not struggle after she was gone. She even took Percy out for the day, and after clicking many pictures, she broke into tears again. The next day, we saw Percy arrive in Dubai, determined to understand the meaning of the ancient writings carved inside the lamp. She tried touching the vase to summon the female genie, but the genie did not appear, and just then, a group of thugs began chasing her. Percy ran for her life until she reached a narrow alley with no way out, and at that critical moment, the The female genie appeared, saved her from the attackers, and pulled her into the safety of the vase. Percy asked about her past with Malchist, and the female genie told her that she and Malchist loved each other deeply, so deeply that Malchist had once destroyed an entire city for her sake, and that he had never called anyone Habibi except her. Meanwhile, YouTuber's wife grew furious and deleted his entire YouTube channel. The YouTuber became so overwhelmed with anger that he summoned Malchist again and used his second wish, demanding that his wife forget everything about the lamp and the genie. Malchist fulfilled his wish. Later, we saw Malchist and Percy together once more in Dubai. Malchist began getting flashbacks, old memories surfacing. At that moment, the female genie created rain above them so the Malchist would be able to kiss Percy. He had even decorated a beautiful place to surprise her. Percy joked that the place looked lovely, but their clothes did not match the vibe. In response, Malchist clapped dramatically and instantly changed both of their outfits, leaving Percy amazed. She asked him if he could dance, and since he couldn't, she herself began teaching him. Two of them losing track of time completely, moving together like a couple in a music video that absolutely no one had auditioned for. Meanwhile, back in Korea, one of the grandmother's friends began getting suspicious. She sensed something was wrong and visited the house secretly, tasting the food and realizing that the supposedly young girl living with Percy was actually her grandmother. She concluded that the grandmother must have used black magic to become young. Just then, the young grandmother entered and immediately got into an argument with her for interfering, and during their quarrel, the woman noticed the birthmark on the grandmother's shoulder, confirming her suspicion. At the same time, the child Khalid living in the neighborhood learned about this situation. He knew the woman would spread the truth and create chaos, attracting everyone toward the lamp, which he didn't want. Since he wanted to become the lamp's owner himself, he decided that the grandmother's friend must be killed. Meanwhile, when Malchist and Percy finished dancing, Malchist saw the reflection of a boy named Han in the water, the same child whose life had been taken in exchange for extending Khalid's life. The boy's soul still wandered the world and appeared only to Malchist, showing him the truth. Han helped Malchist recover his memories and revealed that Malchist had not been imprisoned in the lamp on the day Percy made the punishment wish, nor had Percy died that day. Instead, she had lived a long life afterward, and 20 years later, they met again. The moment Malchist saw her, he recognized her instantly, and they fell in love again. The kidnappers had taken Percy to another town, where she escaped them. She began selling dates to save enough money to buy a camel so she could return home. When Malchist appeared before her, he gave her many gold coins, and Percy, delighted, distributed her dates to the poor that night. She was thrilled with the gold, and was on her way to buy a camel when bandits attacked her. Malchist appeared, killed them mercilessly, and returned the gold to her, promising that he would take her back to her homeland. Percy was overjoyed. We also learned that Khalid had lived in her neighborhood and that Percy adored him. Since he was constantly sick, she brought him medicinal tree roots to help him heal. Khalid saw Malchist behind her and begged him to make him a full genie. When Malchist refused, Khalid became furious, and from that day, the innocent child transformed into an evil being. Malchist had begun living inside the lamp with Percy, spending time with her and writing about her on the enchanted lamp Israel had once gifted him. But one day, his freedom ended when his lamp fell into the hands of a human, the same man who used to kidnap children. That man rubbed the lamp and demanded his first wish to become extremely rich. Malchist granted it, but even then the townspeople did not respect him because he was not a good man. Enraged, the man used his second wish and ordered Malchist to kill everyone who looked at him with hatred, and Malchist fulfilled this wish as well. Later that evening, the man approached Percy, wanting to give her money because she had once shared dates with him. She refused, saying she only lived by earning her own way. His ego was badly bruised, and to take revenge, he summoned Malchist again and demanded his third wish, that Percy should be made his, since he could not buy her with money. Against his will, Malchist was forced to grant the wish. As that man started walking toward Percy, Malchist couldn't bear to watch it. He moved forward to stop the man, but at that very moment Khalid tied the same black thread around Malchist's ankle, and Malchist suddenly couldn't move any further. In the midst of all this, Khalid also revealed to everyone that Percy was in love with that demonic djinn. Hearing this, the man was filled with rage, and he stabbed Percy in the stomach with his sword. Malchus had no idea what to do. But since all three of the man's wishes had already been fulfilled, Malchus cried and pleaded with everyone sitting there, saying, "Please, someone just rub the lamp. I will grant all of your wishes. But in the last wish, please, someone ask for Percy's life to be saved." But one of the men sitting there only asked for money, and even for the final wish he demanded a rain of gold. Malchus had no choice but to fulfill it, even though he didn't want to. And in that moment, Percy died in the process, triggering a rage so violent that Malchus wiped out the entire city in revenge, an act that became the true reason he was imprisoned inside the lamp for a lifetime. The scene shifted back to the present, where the soul of the boy was showing Malchus every memory, revealing the whole truth before finally ascending to heaven. Meanwhile, the old neighborhood lady gathered everyone and marched to Percy's house, ready to expose the grandmother's secret. Not finding either Percy or her grandmother at home, she instructed everyone to search the fields, but before she could reveal anything, Khalid's man ran her over with his car, killing her instantly and burying the truth along with her. Since the grandmother was no longer safe at home, Percy brought her inside Malchus's lamp for protection. After leaving her there, Percy took all her remaining money and went to the girl who had wished for Percy's wealth to transfer into her account. Percy used that money to purchase the girl's final wish. Meanwhile, the YouTuber's wife wept over their deleted channel, remembering nothing about having erased it herself. Watching her despair, the YouTuber felt guilty and used his final wish to fulfill her deepest desire. He asked the genie to cure her father's cancer. When she learned her father was suddenly healthy, she hugged her husband with overwhelming joy, and in the middle of crying, laughing, and thanking him, the password to their YouTube channel popped back into her memory. Sometimes the universe unlocks your account only after unlocking your emotions, apparently. Soon their life was back on track. On the other side, Khalid became obsessed with enslaving Malchus and owning the lamp. He captured Malchus again, using the same magical thread, and even killed his own father, Sadi. Then he confronted Percy, threatening her through his men and demanding she make her final wish to free Malchus. But Percy was never the type to be bullied. She disappeared right in front of them and appeared beside Malchus, thanks to her friend's purchased wish. She freed him from the bindings, and Malchus strengthened his sword with the very threads once used to imprison him, then rushed to his brother's garden to destroy the final flower that symbolized Khalid's life. Meanwhile, Israel secretly handed the lamp to Khalid through Irma. Khalid immediately pulled Percy's grandmother and her friend Minji out of the lamp, and Malchus's Saeed assistant transformed into a lion to protect them, fighting off Khalid's men. But Khalid, furious beyond reason, shot at Minji, and the grandmother jumped forward to shield her. Lion form Saeed attacked Khalid, but Khalid dodged and stabbed a needle into his heart, killing him. Then we saw Malchus reaching the flower, only for Israel to arrive and try to stop him. A fierce battle erupted, so destructive it could have qualified for its own insurance policy, but Israel still failed when Malchus cut off his wings. Israel fell, and seizing the moment, Malchus plucked the flower. The instant it snapped, Khalid vanished from the real world, disappearing just as he was choking Percy. Khalid's other servant girl tried to attack Percy, but Malchus burst in again and saved her. When Percy stepped outside, she learned her grandmother had died, and the grief shattered her. Losing her was the one fear that had haunted her entire life. She sat alone mourning when the girl whose wish Percy had purchased arrived, confused after discovering a bag of money she didn't remember receiving. Social media helped her realize it belonged to Percy, so she returned it. Percy said nothing, took the money, and buried it deep underground just as her grandmother used to, almost as though honoring the one habit she could never let go of, even in heartbreak. Percy then remembered that her third wish had still not been fulfilled, so she rubbed the lamp again and again to summon Malchus, but he did not appear. Left with no choice, she returned to Dubai to find him, and finally expressed her last wish. She wanted to feel every emotion of every person who had ever been close to her throughout her life. Tears formed in Malchus's eyes because granting her final wish meant he might no longer be able to see her again. Still, he reassured her of his love and fulfilled it. The moment he did, Percy felt a flood of emotions: joy, grief, warmth, betrayal all crashing through her at once, and when she felt her grandmother's emotions, she broke down, sobbing uncontrollably. In the next moment, Israel appeared and cut Malchist's throat because Malchist had lost. He could not prove that all humans were greedy. Even the YouTuber had used his last wish selflessly to save his father-in-law's life, and Percy had shown nothing but compassion in all three of her wishes. Defeated, Malchist was killed. Percy, who was sitting alone in the desert crying, was approached by Iram, who restored all of Percy's memories, every lifetime she had shared with Malchist, and revealed that her final wish had caused Malchist's defeat and death. Overwhelmed by grief, Percy cried and cried until her heart could no longer carry the weight, and eventually she too died. Her body was sent back to her hometown, where Minji was devastated by the news, and soon Percy's funeral took place. The next day, when Minji visited the funeral site and touched Percy's urn, a genie emerged from within. It was Percy herself leading Minji into hysterical joy. Minji made her first wish, that Percy would have dinner with her every Wednesday, just as they used to. When Percy asked about the second wish, Minji requested that all the sick children who could not reach her clinic should be brought there. Because she had not used her third wish yet, Percy ended up living in Minji's town, working in her old garage as before, though no one including Minji could see her anymore or remember who she really was. The next day, Minji met Percy again. After long contemplation, she finally asked her third wish that Percy should find her true love. The instant the wish was spoken, Minji forgot everything. Percy, the genie, the lamp, the wishes. But that was precisely when the true magic happened, and Malchist appeared before Percy. She stood frozen in disbelief until he told her not to look so shocked, because now they were meant to stay together and that surviving in the modern world required money, which meant they would have to start earning, which honestly sounded like the most unromantic happily ever after ever. Percy took him to the backyard where she had buried all her money, and when Malchist saw the stash, he lit up like a kid finding free Wi-Fi. After all this chaos, Malchist finally went to tease Israel, bragging that he was alive, but Israel revealed the truth that Malchist was not alive because of his own power, but because of Percy's grandmother. When she died and reached heaven's gates, Israel tried to guide her inside, but she refused. She announced she would not enter until Malchist was brought back to life. Her final unwavering wish had resurrected both Malchist and Percy. At last, Percy and Malchist dancing together in the desert, their bodies glowing with light when suddenly they vanished, summoned by the call of their new masters, whose wishes awaited fulfillment.